What up, y'all? It's episode 13, and today we're talking about something different. It is why most people feel stuck. This channel thus far is still really small. I love what I'm doing. I'm getting a lot of interaction from you guys in the comment section, so I really appreciate that. I know that it's going to take a lot of consistency in order to get this channel somewhere, and I appreciate you guys as the day oneers who are riding and dying with me on these channels. We're going to keep getting better. We're going to keep on generating better content. We're going to upgrade everything from the lighting to the studio where we film or the office, and eventually I'd like to start getting guests on here. So if you guys live in the St. Petersburg, Florida area and you ever want to pop on to one of these episodes and ask me some life stuff or just some work stuff, I'm happy to do it. It would make some great content and hopefully push you in the right direction. In this episode, talking about why people feel stuck, I think that the biggest factor that contributes to that is that you're not measuring anything. What do I mean by measuring everything? Not all stuff can be measured, right? Like how I feel today, how happy are you? Can you really put that on a scale? That's not what I'm talking about. But there's some really easy stuff that you can measure right now in your life. And one of them could be your body weight. One of them could be your money, how much money you make, how much money you've saved. It could be measuring whether or not you did or didn't do a certain activity. And I really think that all of us struggle with looking in the mirror and seeing the uncomfortable things that we don't want to see. We push it off, we avoid it, and we lie to ourselves all the time. So this channel is all about accountability, and it's all about vision. It's all about loving yourself, even though we can recognize that we got some stuff to fix. When somebody tells me I feel stuck, it usually just means they don't really know where they are, so they wouldn't even know if they were stuck to begin with. My brother reached out, and he put a caveat in here for my next episode, so I want to talk about this. He asked me, essentially, how do you cope with the death of your inner voice? Your inner voice is you talking to yourself as you go through life. And there's some studies out there that say around 50% of the population don't have open dialogue with themselves. They're not spending any time in their own head talking themselves through or even necessarily criticizing themselves. Usually the ones that don't talk themselves through challenges aren't very introspective. The ones that are sitting there criticizing themselves are usually the ones that are self-deprecating, and the ones that are in their own head talking about how great they are usually the bullies and they're narcissistic and all that stuff. So it's kind of like you got to pick your poison. They say ignorance is bliss, and I think for a lot of people who don't have that inner voice, they have that ignorance. Feeling stuck and getting out of it and rekindling that inner voice are going to come from the same root. I'm going through this right now myself personally. In 2020, I took a different job in my life where I became much more attached to my smartphone. And because of my work being 7 days a week and getting emails and phone calls at all hours of the day, I felt like if I had my phone in my hand, I was ready for the next email or phone call, but I might as well make use of the time. So I started using social media more, Instagram Reels, YouTube Reels, and of course they got better at capturing my attention. And lo and behold, I have got a massive social media addiction on my hands. I've always been introspective, but I can tell you right now that that inner voice does not exist when I'm doom scrolling. It doesn't exist when I'm embroiled in technology, I'm watching TV or I'm YouTubing or whatever, but it does exist if I sit in a room by myself. Feeling stuck and rekindling your inner voice, and I'm going to tell you, if you haven't talked to yourself in a long time, it's going to be scary. And we're not talking to ourselves like a crazy homeless guy walking down the street who's having a story outwardly. I'm saying sitting with yourself and talking to yourself about where you're at in life. It's going to start with the same thing. Go sit in a dark room or a lit room with no music, no phone for 15 minutes and see what kind of conversation comes up in your own head. I think some scientific studies we see the headlines for are there to actually misguide us. They're there to tell us it's okay that we have this unacceptable and totally changeable condition in our life. We read the headline of the article, it says 50% of the population doesn't have internal dialogue, and we're like, well, I don't have internal dialogue, so that's totally fine. Instead of actually getting to the root cause of like, maybe I need it. Maybe it's an important part of being human. Maybe it's an important part of me leveling up in my life and finding a strategy that I can go act on. Meditation is going to be your key. Boredom is your key. We've never been less bored as a society. I used to hate boredom when I was a kid. I'm old enough for you guys to know, growing up, I spent a lot of time by myself outside playing in the woods, making teepees, climbing trees, making guns out of sticks. Because I spent all that time alone, I can tell you I got bored often. But I came up with creative stuff, and I had that internal dialogue, and it was a lot stronger when I wasn't staring at my cell phone. To answer my brother's question, and I really appreciate it, spend some time alone. Meditate. What does is meditation? It's sitting with your thoughts. There's a million different types of meditation. It doesn't mean having no thoughts in your head. A lot of people think that's what meditation is all about, and I think it's damn near impossible. I've tried really hard. I've achieved it one time, but every other time I'll start thinking about the noise of the air conditioning, and that's not a thoughtless head. Meditation is really about getting to know yourself, and from that position, you can rekindle and you can set some really good goals. And from that position, you can rekindle your inner dialogue and also start setting some measurable goals to make progress on feeling stuck. I want you guys to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to break your life down in 3-month chunks. The last 3 months, what is something positive that you did in the last 3 months? What is something that you want to do that's positive 3 months from now? And what are some things that you want to change about your current situation? Write them down. For the negative things that you wish were different, don't expect overnight miracles. But when you start to measure your life, you're going to feel the progress. And the key to measurability is this. If I write down the goal, make $1 million this year, it's out of the questions. It's crazy. It's unachievable. And so I might start working in that direction. Then when I see how insurmountable it might be, I stop working towards that goal. So break your goal down into chunks. If you want to lose 30 pounds, write down on your list, lose 10 pounds, lose 20 pounds, lose 30 pounds, and cross off each step along the way. And yeah, it means your list is going to look a lot longer, but you're going to get a lot more of a reward from your own brain as you cross off more of those items on the list. Making it measurable and making it small is going to be your best friend. There's a reason why in the Alcoholics Anonymous community, a lot of the former addicts will actually track the granularity of how long they've been sober. They give them little chips whenever they complete a certain impasse of sobriety. So, at the 1 month mark, you get this chip. At the 2 month mark, you get this chip. At the 6 month mark, they do that for a reason because they know they need to kind of string you along in order to keep sober. You got to think about these little rewards. And I guarantee you, some people who've been in AA for many years literally stayed sober because they couldn't wait to get the next chip. You're doing the same thing for yourself, but with your goals and the things that you can measure and change. There's nothing wrong with being granular about that. There's nothing wrong with tracking your weight loss in 5-pound increments. There's literally nothing wrong with tracking how much weight you lift. The reason why I got so hooked in the gym to powerlifting for a period of time was that because I could track measurable change and not feel stuck when it came to my bench press or my back squat or my deadlifts. The only thing that's dangerous about that is that not all progress in life can be measurable. But if you're not making any progress at all, where do you start? With the measurable stuff. The stuff you can't measure is just how positive of a person you are on a day-to-day basis. It's not really measurable. It's not really feelable. But you can measure how much weight you lost, how much money you saved, how much food you didn't buy on Uber Eats, how much vaping you didn't do, and for how long. Set some benchmarks for yourself. Track the measurable stuff, and the unmeasurable stuff will come with it. I promise. There's a huge difference between motion and progress. Yeah, this white boy's got some motion, okay? But beside the point. Motion is like saying I want a goal, but you're doing all the activities that don't actually get you towards that goal. Progress is saying, here's my goal and here's my step-to-step on how to do it. So don't be doing the motion for no reason. It's not going to get you anywhere. And try and find out the difference. And it takes time. It took me a really long time to tell the difference between motion and progress. And a lot of you guys right now, for the lack of clarity, you're dealing with anxiety. The moment you sit down to write out these goals and figure out which direction you want to go, you will diminish your anxiety, you'll have a vision, and you'll have a step-by-step process, even if it feels like you're only taking an inch step at a time. Track one thing for 7 days. Pick it. Could be sleep, money, steps that you walk, screen time, workouts. Track one thing for 7 days. I promise you, you're going to benefit from it. It's going to give you the clarity and it's going to build the habit. Don't be afraid to journal. Don't be afraid to sit with yourself and see the ugly things about you. Just as many ugly things as you see about yourself, there's many beautiful things that other people see and sometimes you'll never be able to see. So don't get hung up on the negative stuff that you're about to find. You're going to find it, you're going to see it, you're going to fix it, you're going to get better, and everybody around you is going to thank you for that. On to the questions. Kevin Lately writes, on paper, my life looks fine. Job, routine, responsibilities. But I feel like I'm not actually going anywhere. How do you figure out what's missing when nothing is technically wrong? I don't mean to be brash, Kevin, but I can tell you what's wrong right now. You're too freaking serious. If you're writing your life out and everything looks fine, like your job, your routine, and your responsibilities, you're missing one important component. Where's the fun? Where's the excitement? Duh, you feel lost. All you're doing is working, fixing your routine, going to the gym, everything's perfect, everything's dialed in, but you don't do a single thing for your own fun. Nothing brings you joy. Duh, of course you're going to be lost. I get into the same habit. I swear to God, the best thing I ever did for myself was adopt 2 dogs. I got 2 beautiful girls. When I come home every day, they're delighted to see me. They bring me a tremendous amount of joy. Track some beautiful things too, not just the hard stuff. Next question, Blue Chair Club. I feel busy all the time, but I don't feel accomplished. Weeks just blur together. How do you know if you're actually making any progress or just staying occupied? That's a white boy with motion right there, but you're not making progress. So again, like I've said before in this episode, you got to start tracking things, and don't be afraid to look at that journal and see what you wrote. And not just journaling for the tasks, but you could also journal your thoughts. How cool would it be for you to look back 6 months ago and see how you were feeling on Tuesday at 6:30 in the morning or 9:30 in the morning? Track what you're doing. See if those activities line up and figure out what you're wasting your time on. Alex Hormozy and all these business entrepreneurs will talk about how they only focus on high value activities. Good for them. I live in a world where as a VP of a company, I wear way too many hats. My mom keeps on yelling at me for cussing, so let's bleep that. Yeah, my mom hates it when I cuss. I wear way too many hats, and because of that, it's really hard for me to stay focused. I get distracted all the time. I have people coming to me with questions that they should be able to answer themselves, and then it's like, do I answer the question and get them out of my face, or teach them the tools that they need to answer that question in the future? And sometimes I'm just answering the question to get them out of my face, and that's a loss for the company. And sometimes I've spent time on things that shouldn't be spent time on. I'm not just such a pro that I only work on $100 million deals. So if you're that guy, and that's great, I'm happy for you. But for the rest of us real people in the real world, we are going to sometimes spend our time on things that aren't valuable. Now that we know it, now that we have awareness of it, let's spend a little less time on the non-valuable things. Let's prioritize a little bit more on the important stuff. Let's figure out how to quit flailing so much and make progress towards those goals. As always, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Hope you have a blessed day. Drop a comment below, like, subscribe, save, etc. Thanks.